The battlefield was quiet now, but it wasn't peaceful. Smoke still floated in the cold air. Fires burned far in the distance. The war between humans and the alien race, known as the Varnock, had just ended for now. But the ground still held the memory of chaos, pain, and blood. Sergeant Daniel Blake walked slowly across the frozen soil, his boots crunching on snow mixed with ash. His armor was scratched, his energy rifle low on charge, but his eyes stayed sharp. Every few steps, he looked around, alert. His best friend. And War Dog Rex walked ahead of him, nose low, ears twitching. Rex wasn't just a dog. He was a trained military companion, built for detection, protection, and survival. For years, Daniel and Rex had fought together, survived together. And in all those years, Daniel had learned one thing when Rex reacted. You listened. Today felt strange. There was too much silence, as if the ground itself was holding its breath. Then it happened. Rex stopped. His body froze like stone, tail stiff. Nose pointed at a mound of snow and rubble. A low growl escaped his throat, not a threat, but a warning. Daniel instantly raised his rifle, stepping quietly toward the spot. "What is it, boy?" Daniel whispered. Rex didn't move, but his eyes locked onto the broken pile of debris just ahead. Daniel circled closer, his weapon steady. He saw dried blood trailing from under a slab of metal. He moved carefully, kicking away rocks, until something underneath twitched. A hand, not human. Blue-gray skin, longer fingers, black claws. A Varnock. Daniel's grip tightened on his rifle. The Varnock were the enemy. They had killed humans, raided colonies, destroyed outposts. Orders were clear. Eliminate any survivors. No exceptions. But then, Rex did something unexpected. He stepped forward, not to attack, but to block. The big dog placed himself between Daniel and the wounded alien, letting out another soft growl. Not at the Varnock, at Daniel Rex. Daniel blinked in confusion. "What are you doing?" Rex turned his head slightly and gave Daniel a look one he had seen many times in battle. It wasn't fear, it was concern. The Varnock groaned. Its eyes opened slightly, two large black orbs, full of pain. It didn't reach for a weapon. It didn't move at all. It just stared at Rex. Then Daniel. "No fight. Please." The alien whispered in broken English. Its voice was weak, almost fading. Daniel didn't lower his weapon, but he didn't shoot either. He looked at Rex again. The dog stood firm, eyes focused, body tense but not aggressive. He was defending the alien. "Are you sure, boy?" Daniel whispered. The wind howled, pushing more snow around them. Rex didn't move. Daniel's heart pounded. He had seen too much death, too many ambushes, too many fake surrenders. But something about this moment felt different. The alien wasn't strong. It wasn't tricking them. It was bleeding, half-buried and helpless. Daniel slowly took a step back. He didn't lower his rifle, but he didn't fire. Instead, he knelt beside Rex and examined the Varnock closer. The creature had a deep wound on its side, possibly from an energy blast. It was wrapped in pieces of burned cloth. No armor, no weapon. Just pain. "You're not a soldier," Daniel muttered. "Are you?" The alien blinked slowly. "No, I run. I fall." Rex moved closer to the alien and sat beside it. Then, gently, he licked the blood from its hand. Daniel's mouth opened in disbelief. Rex had never done that before. Not with any human. Not even Daniel himself. "Why you?" he asked the dog quietly. Rex didn't answer, of course, but in his silence, there was something loud. A message. Something Daniel could feel in his gut. This wasn't just an enemy. This was someone left behind, forgotten, hurt, alone, and maybe. Innocent Daniel looked out at the battlefield again. How many others had died with no one to question why? How many times had soldiers followed orders? Without asking what was right, he stood up slowly, still unsure of what to do next. "We can't stay here," he whispered to himself. He looked down at the alien, then at Rex. "All right," he said softly. "Let's get him out of here." Quietly. Rex wagged his tail once and turned to lead the way. As Daniel lifted the alien gently onto his back, one thought echoed in his mind. "Today, my dog saved a life. And that might just change everything." Daniel moved carefully through the snowy forest, carrying the wounded alien on his back. The weight wasn't the problem, was the choice. He was disobeying a direct military order. If command found out, he could be court-martialed or even executed. But Rex had made the decision for him. And Daniel trusted his dog more than any general. Rex led the way ahead, ears alert, tail low. He wasn't relaxed, but he wasn't afraid either. He walked with purpose, like he understood how serious this moment was. Every few steps, he looked back to make sure Daniel and the alien were still behind him. They found shelter in a collapsed, bunker-ran old human outpost, lost in the early days of the war. The roof was half gone, but the walls still stood, and it was enough to hide from drones and patrols. Daniel laid the alien on an old bed frame, carefully checking the bleeding wound. The alien hissed in pain, but didn't fight back. Instead, it watched Daniel with tired eyes. There was no hate, no anger, only pain. And something else, regret. "You got a name?" Daniel asked. The alien blinked slowly. "Kareth." Daniel sighed. "All right, Kareth. You're lucky my dog likes you." Rex gave a short bark, as if in agreement. Kareth gave a weak smile. "Your beast. Kind heart." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "He's not a beast. He's family." Kareth closed his eyes, breathing heavily. Daniel patched up the wound, using the last of his field supplies. He couldn't risk sending for medics. Too dangerous. It's too many questions. That night, Daniel sat near the broken doorway, watching the skies. Drones buzzed faintly in the distance, scanning for survivors. If they found Kareth, they'd kill him. If they found Daniel helping him. Same fate. He looked at his dog, who lay beside Kareth, keeping him warm. "Why are you doing this, Rex?" he whispered. The dog didn't move. He just stayed close to the alien, like it was his job now. In the silence, Daniel's thoughts went back to the beginning of the war. The news had painted the Varnock as monsters, brutal creatures who attacked without reason. But this one, this Kareth, didn't feel like a monster. He looked more like a refugee. Daniel remembered something his father used to say. Even the enemy has a story. The next morning, Kareth could speak a little better. "I was Scout," he said. "No fighter. I run when humans attack." "You mean we started it?" Daniel asked. Surprised, Kareth nodded slowly. "Not all war is truth." Daniel frowned. The idea that humans had fired first was heavy. But he didn't argue. He'd seen enough lies in command briefings to believe it was possible. "How many more like you?" Daniel asked. Kareth's answer was quiet. "None left. I think I am last." Rex let out a soft whine, sensing the sadness. He pressed his head gently against Kareth's arm. Daniel stared at them, a dog comforting an alien, a soldier protecting a so-called enemy. Everything he had been taught about this war was falling apart. He stood and stepped outside. The cold bit at his face, but he didn't care. He needed air. Was Kareth an enemy or a victim? Was Rex seeing something his human heart couldn't? As he looked up at the distant stars, a thought hit him like a punch to the chest. Maybe the real enemy wasn't the alien inside the bunker. Maybe it was the lie outside it. The wind outside howled like a ghost, but inside the ruined bunker, silence wrapped around them. The only sounds were the faint hum of Daniel's field heater and the soft breathing of Kareth, the wounded alien who should have been Daniel's enemy but somehow wasn't. Rex lay curled next to Kareth, his body touching the alien's side, sharing warmth. Daniel watched them both from a corner, trying to understand how the lines between war and mercy had blurred so fast. Kareth's wound was still bad. His skin had turned pale blue from blood loss. His breathing was shallow. Yet he refused to sleep. His eyes stayed open, watching, not with fear, but with questions at some point. Kareth turned his head, slowly, painfully, and looked straight at Daniel. Their eyes met, and for the first time, it was as if words were no longer needed. Daniel saw everything in that gaze: pain, confusion, sorrow, but also something he hadn't expected. Hope. Kareth blinked slowly. "You are not like others," he said. Daniel sat forward. "Why do you say that?" Kareth shifted slightly, his hand brushing against Rex's back. "Others shoot first. You wait." Daniel nodded. "My dog made me wait." Kareth gave a faint smile. "Then your beast is wiser than most men." They both sat in silence for a moment, the kind of silence that speaks louder than shouting. Then Kareth said something strange. "I knew a human once, before the war." Daniel's brows lifted. "You did?" Kareth nodded slowly. "On my world, she was a doctor. She treated my sister after a fall. Kind hands, warm voice. She taught me. Not all humans are cruel. I never forgot." Daniel's throat tightened. "What happened to her?" Kareth's eyes dimmed. "She died. In first strike, bombs don't care about kindness." Daniel looked away. The guilt weighed heavy. Kareth reached into the folds of his shredded uniform and pulled out a small, metallic object. He held it out with shaking fingers. Daniel took it carefully. It was a pendant, not alien, human, on the back. Scratched by hand were words in faded English. "Peace begins when someone dares to stop." Daniel stared at the words. "She gave you this." Kareth nodded. "It was hers. I carry it to remember. War burned her home. Burned mine, too." Daniel stared at the pendant as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. Outside, the sun started to rise. Light spilled into the bunker, touching Kareth's face. Daniel saw more clearly now. Not just the wound or the alien skin, but the truth. This wasn't an enemy. This was someone who had also lost everything. Rex stood up and walked to Daniel, nudging his knee. Daniel looked down. "What, boy?" Rex barked once, soft but sharp, then walked to the bunker door, wagged his tail, and looked back. "Outside?" Daniel asked. Rex barked again. Daniel turned to Kareth. "You okay to move?" Kareth winced, but nodded. "I try." Daniel helped him up slowly, wrapping his arm around the alien's side. With Rex leading, they stepped out into the fresh snow. There, through the golden morning light, the war didn't feel real. It felt distant. Like a nightmare they were finally waking up from. As Kareth looked around at the broken world, he whispered, "Maybe peace can begin here." Daniel looked at the pendant in his hand, then at his dog, then at the alien beside him, and he said quietly, "Maybe it already has." Daniel froze as the words echoed from the radio. The voice was cold, flat. Military, no room for feelings, no room for truth. Kareth was sitting by the edge of the collapsed bunker, wrapped in an old thermal blanket, his eyes half shut. He didn't need translation. He understood what was happening. He was a marked creature now. Not just wounded, not just forgotten, but ordered dead. Daniel lowered the communicator and looked out toward the snowy hills. Somewhere beyond them, the military search parties were sweeping. Drones, boots, guns, following orders like machines. He looked down at Rex. The dog's ears were up, nose twitching. Rex had already sensed danger was coming. Daniel walked too. Kareth and crouched down. "They're coming," he said quietly. Kareth nodded, not surprised. They fear what they do not understand. Daniel shook his head. No, they don't even try to understand. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Kareth looked Daniel in the eyes. "You must leave me. Save your beast. Save yourself." Daniel stood up slowly. "We don't leave allies behind." Kareth looked surprised. "You call me ally?" Daniel glanced at Rex, who was standing like a statue, eyes focused on the north ridge. "My dog knew before I did," he said. "Not the enemy they said you were." Kareth blinked slowly, as if those words carried more weight than any weapon. Suddenly, Rex barked once. Sharp, urgent. Daniel turned fast. Movement on the ridge. Snow kicking up scanners. Military drones, they were closer than expected. Daniel rushed to his backpack, grabbing a cloaking net and tossing it over Kareth. It wouldn't hide him forever, but maybe it would by them minutes. He turned off the communicator. Smashed it with a rock. Rex stood growling now, low and deep, facing the noise with his body tense and ready. Daniel whispered, "You've still got that secret path, Kareth?" Kareth nodded weakly. "To the gorge, under the river ice." Daniel helped him up again. Kareth leaned heavier than before. The wound was getting worse, but they moved. Through the back of the bunker, through thick trees, stepping where the snow looked untouched. Rex moved ahead. Silent, leading. Above them, the buzz of drones passed close. Too close. One turned. Scanning. Daniel froze. He covered Kareth with his own body and pressed them both into the snow. The drone paused. Hovering. Rex lay perfectly still, barely breathing. Daniel's heartbeat thundered in his ears. Then after what felt like hours, the drone moved on. They waited another minute. Then Rex stood and moved again. They kept walking, fast and low, until the bunker was far behind and the frozen river appeared below. Kareth pointed to a broken section of ice. Their tunnel under. Old mining vent. Daniel nodded. "Let's go." Before entering, he looked back. Smoke now rose from the ridge above the bunker. Flames. They had burned it down. No evidence. No witnesses. No mercy. Daniel clenched his jaw. The command had never wanted peace, and now they had made him something dangerous. A soldier who questioned orders. A human who saw truth in an alien's eyes. A man whose dog had reminded him what loyalty really meant. They crawled into the tunnel. Dark, cold, safe for now. And behind them, the world kept hunting. The underground tunnel was narrow and cold, with old steel beams holding up chunks of frozen rock. Water dripped from above. Every sound echoed like a whisper from another world. Rex stayed close, nose low, body tense. He didn't trust the silence. Neither did Daniel. Kareth moved slowly beside him, holding onto the wall for balance. His strength was fading, but his spirit wasn. Single quotes. After an hour of walking through twisting darkness, they reached a forgotten storage chamber in old mining shelter. Sealed from the outside, long abandoned. Here, they rested. Daniel lit a dim lamp from his emergency kit. The glow spread slowly, revealing rusted crates, frost-covered walls, and thick dust that hadn't been disturbed in years. Kareth sat down against a crate, breathing hard. This place, hidden from both sides. Daniel knelt beside him, checking the wound. It was bad. The burn had gone deeper, and the edges were infected. Time was running out. "I need to know," Daniel said softly. "Why did Rex protect you? Does he sense in you that I don't fully understand?" Kareth didn't speak right away. Instead, he reached into a hidden pocket sewn deep in the inside lining of his tattered jacket. His hand trembled as he pulled out a small silver cube the size of a matchbox. It pulsed faintly with a soft blue light. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "What is that?" Kareth looked at the cube like it was sacred. Truth, hidden truth. He handed it to Daniel with great care. "This is why I ran. Why I refused to fight. This cube holds the first. Days of War, unedited." Daniel activated the cube using his wristpad. A small 3D hologram projected into the cold air. He saw it. Clear footage, not from a Varnak ship, but from a human battleship. It showed a classified Black Ops strike team boarding a peaceful Varnak research vessel. No warning, no communication, just violence. The Varnak had never fired the first shot. The voice of a human general echoed in the background of the recording. No witnesses, no survivors. Frame the attack on their warlords. The council will approve retaliation. Daniel's blood ran cold. "This?" he whispered. "This is proof." Kareth nodded. "Your leaders needed war. My people were the excuse." Rex let out a soft growl, not in anger at Kareth, but at the truth now burning in the air around them. Daniel fell silent. His mind raced. Billions had died. Whole colonies reduced to ash. All based on a lie. And now, in his hands, was the truth. "If this goes public," Daniel said slowly, "it'll burn everything." Kareth's eyes locked with his. "Then let it burn. From ash, peace might grow." Daniel gripped the cube tighter. He felt a storm building in his chest. A fear. Not confusion, fire, purpose. Rex walked over and rested his head on Daniel's knee, as if to say, "Now you understand." Daniel looked down at his dog. "You knew, didn't you? You knew he wasn't the enemy. You smelled truth when I smelled danger." Kareth coughed hard, blood on his lips. "I give it to you because I believe not all humans are blind." Daniel stood, turning toward the tunnel they had come through. "The drones, the soldiers, the lies, they'll come," he said. "They'll track us again." Kareth smiled. Faintly. "Then let them come. They chase a man now, not just a soldier." Daniel looked down at the cube in his hand, and then at his reflection in the metal wall. No longer just a follower of orders. He was now a bearer of truth. And truth was dangerous. The cube felt heavier now, not because of weight, but because of what it carried. Daniel tucked it safely inside a steel-reinforced case from an old crate. It was the kind of truth that could break empires. Rex lay quietly near the tunnel entrance, eyes wide, ears twitching. Kareth slept against the wall, his body wrapped in every scrap of cloth Daniel could find. But even sleep looked painful for him now. Then the silence cracked. A faint beep. Daniel's wrist come. Kata had reactivated at its own. He snatched it up. Static hummed. Then a familiar voice came through. "Daniel, are you out there?" "It's Lieutenant." "Hey, thank God, we lost your signal." Daniel froze. Hale had been his friend since training. They'd shared missions, meals, memories. "Yeah," Daniel answered cautiously. "I'm alive. Barely took a hit in the north sector." There was a pause. "Command thinks you're dead. We've been ordered to sweep the area. Tell me your position, I'll pull you out myself." Daniel hesitated. He stared at single, quotes, RETH, dot. Rex dotted the case in his hand. He didn't answer. "Daniel," Lay's voice returned. "Are you alone out there?" The tone had changed. Colder, calculating. Then Daniel heard a soft click. He looked down. His cum had been traced. He'd been talking too long. Rex let out a sharp growl. From deep in the tunnels, Footsteps, boots, Hull was already here. Daniel grabbed the cube, the case, and shook Kareth awake. We've been compromised. They know. Kareth's eyes blinked open. Okay, you trusted him? I thought I could, Daniel muttered. But he's one of them now. They moved fast. Daniel helped Kareth up while Rex led the way, nose low, tail stiff like a wire. The old tunnel curved left, then down toward a mining elevator shaft. Behind them, echoes of voices came closer, and among them, Hale's voice cut through the dark. Daniel, don't do this. Bring me the Varnak, and we can fix this. Daniel didn't stop. He knew Hale too well. That voice wasn't offering peace. It was. Bait. At the elevator shaft. Daniel hit the emergency release lever. The metal cage dropped, suddenly slamming to the base level, spraying sparks as it landed. Move. Daniel shouted. He and Kareth climbed in fast, and Rex jumped last. Daniel yanked the lever again, pulling them deeper into the mountain's underground maze as they dropped. Gunfire echoed above, metal pinged, shouts faded, but they weren't safe yet. At the bottom, they entered an ancient storage bay built before the war, maybe even before. The colony was abandoned. Dust choked the air, and old mining bots lay scattered like metal corpses. Kareth collapsed against a wall. Breathing hard, Daniel turned to Rex. Scan, we need another way out. Rex moved ahead, sniffing, his paws quiet against the stone. Daniel turned back to Kareth, who whispered, You? Still carry it? Daniel opened the case and showed the cube. I'll protect it. Even if it kills me. Kareth nodded. Slowly, you are not like the others. Daniel looked away, jaw tight. I used to be. Suddenly, Rex barks just once. Found something. Daniel rushed over, a hatch half covered in rubble. Emergency escape tunnel before they could enter. A voice echoed through a hidden speaker above. Daniel Hale said calmly, I'm sorry. I truly am. But if you won't give us the alien, you're now the enemy too. Daniel stared at the speaker, rage building. You were my brother. He whispered. Then you know how this ends, Hale replied. You're out of time. Daniel turned to Kareth. We're not running, he said. We're exposing them. Kareth smiled weakly. Then let the truth walk. Daniel helped him through the hatch. X followed close. Behind them, explosives. Detonated, the mine entrance collapsed. They had made it out. Barely, but now they weren't just fugitives. They were revolution. The stars above the outpost shimmered like they had always done, but for the first time in Daniel's life. They didn't look cold. They looked like witnesses. He had made it. He, Kareth, and Rex had crossed frozen rivers, crawled through collapsed tunnels, dodged gunfire and betrayal, and now, standing atop an abandoned communications tower on the edge of the dead zone. Daniel stared into the night sky, holding the cube of truth in his hands. This is it, he whispered. Kareth stood beside him, leaning weakly against the railing, wrapped in thermal layers. His skin had lost color. His wound hadn't healed. He didn't have much time left. I don't want revenge, Kareth said quietly. Only for the lies to end. Daniel nodded. They will. You have my word. Rex stood near them, staring at the entrance below. Always alert. Always guarding. The dog hadn't slept properly in days. He didn't need to. His mission wasn't over. Daniel activated the transmitter. The screen glowed. Static filled the air for a moment. Then connection. Broadcast lines opened, not just to one command station, but to all, civilian and military, human and alien. He loaded the cube. Footage played. Across space, in every outpost, every fleet. Every council room, the truth unfolded. The betrayal, the ambush, the lie that began the war. and the voice of a general. Saying the words framed the attack. The war will unify our people. There was no way to stop it now. It was live, raw, unfiltered, undeniable, in orbit above the colony. Command stations scrambled. Soldiers froze. Leaders argued, but the people listened. Mothers whose sons had died for nothing. Fathers who had buried daughters wrapped in flags. Entire cities. Watching in silence, they saw the truth. And then came the final message. Daniel stepped into the view of the broadcast camera. His face was covered in dust and scars, but his voice was steady. My name is Sergeant Daniel Blake. I was loyal. I followed orders. But loyalty without truth is slavery. The alien beside Mikareth was labeled an enemy, but it was my dog who knew better. He protected the one we were told to fear. He showed me what it means to see without hate. He paused, looking into the lens as if staring into the soul of the galaxy. I am no longer a soldier of war. I am a soldier of peace. And if I must be hunted for it, so be it. He stepped back. Broadcast complete, silence followed. Kareth slowly sank to the ground, exhausted. You have changed. The stars, he whispered. Daniel knelt beside him, pressing a hand to his shoulder. No, we did. Rex lay beside them, both letting out a deep sigh. Hours passed. Then came the lights, not missiles, not drones, but ships, human and alien together. Peace, envoys, journalists, whispers turning to waves. The war that had taken so many lives cracked open at last. Because a wounded alien dared to trust, and a loyal dog dared to defy. Epilogue. Months later, Daniel stood at a memorial under a clear sky. It wasn't for soldiers. It wasn't for generals. It was for Kareth. A plaque read, he was once called the enemy, but became the spark that ended war. His only weapon was truth. Rex sat beside the memorial, watching the stars quietly. Daniel placed the cube beneath the stone. Rest easy, friend, he said. You didn't die unknown. You died. Hurt, he turned to walk away. Rex followed. Behind them, the galaxy began to change one truth at a time.